Taiwan President Lai Ching-te hails the country's friendship with Palau on the final stop on his Pacific tour. A public outcry means former President Ma Ying-jeou's foundation could be banned from inviting more exchange groups from China. Taiwan's military is receiving more weapons from the US, but is it trained to use them effectively? Plus, Taiwan aims to be carbon neutral by 2050, and small green energy projects are set to play a role. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Laurel Stewart. Taiwan President Lai Ching-te is wrapping up his 6-day trip of the Pacific in Palau, one of Taiwan's few official diplomatic allies and a big advocate of Taiwan on the world stage. Rick Lowett reports from Palau on the friendship giving Taiwan diplomacy a new direction.
The latest milestone in a blossoming friendship. Taiwan's President Lai Ching-te welcomed by his counterpart on a state visit to Palau. It's Lai's last stop on a whirlwind diplomatic tour bolstering ties with Pacific Island nations. And he's here with a simple message.
With
a population of only 20,000, Palau is one of just 12 countries worldwide that has official diplomatic ties with Taipei. China claims Taiwan as part of its territory and objects to recognition of its sovereignty by a state visit like this. In rare defiance of Beijing, Palau's leader, Geol Whips Jr., says his country has been punished by China for its friendship with Taiwan, weaponizing tourism and illegally sending vessels into its waters to pressure Palau to cut ties with Taipei in favor of Beijing.
We want you to come, and we want us to win together. As we navigate the complexities of international relations, the threats to democracy, and the threats to our sovereignty, now more than ever, we must partner. We must stand strong together.
Palau wants to be less reliant on China, currently its largest source of tourists and investment. Lai's delegation includes business leaders and is expected to bring new sources of investment for the country in tourism and green technologies. He's also sharing his country's knowledge of so-called digital democracy. Palau's Capitol building was built with the help of a $20 million loan from Taiwan. Now Taiwan, a world leader in high technology, is going to help to digitalize its legislature with online voting and better online security. While promising to help countries like Palau modernize, on his week-long trip, Lai has also emphasized their commonalities, highlighting ancient migration routes that link indigenous Taiwanese to Pacific Islanders and cultural traditions that they still share.
So I think this connection is has been here for a while and is working and in a very different way, and also reshaping Taiwanese identity and reshaping Taiwanese political imagination. So there is a slowly transition from focusing on China, and then we're now focusing on the island nations.
Although there are thousands of nautical miles between their island nations, Lai describes Palau's leader as a brother. The message from this pair is that despite Beijing's political protestations, this relationship is both timely and time-honoured. John Su and Rick Lowett in Palau for TaiwanPlus.
While he was in Palau, President Lai also went to see joint exercises between the country's coast guards. Rick Lowett is back with this report.
We're on board the Taiwan Coast Guard cutter Yoon, one of the largest in the fleet, and it's docked here in Palau as President Lai Ching-te makes an official visit to Taiwan's diplomatic ally. Lai has promised closer cooperation with Palau on maritime safety and security.
是安全及人道救援不分国界，我要感谢台湾辛苦的海巡同仁，因为各位的努力，为台湾，也为我们的友邦，更为全世界。 传达了坚守民主、自由、繁荣的决心。
Today, they're doing a search and rescue mission here in Palau's waters using drones. This comes as Palau says China has been illegally sending boats into its waters. Punishment, it says, for its friendship with Taiwan and for speaking up for it on the world stage. John Su and Rick Lowett in Palau for TaiwanPlus.
For more on Lai's diplomatic trip through the Pacific, Alec MacDonald spoke to Professor Jia Ian Chong from the National University of Singapore.
How do you think that President Lai was able to use a level of soft power to connect with Taiwan's partners in Palau, Tuvalu, and the Marshall Islands?
So for Lai and successive DPP governments, they've always stressed a cultural aspect as well as a democratic aspect of the relationship. I suppose in particular, Taiwan and its Aboriginal peoples have a cultural connection with the peoples of the Pacific. So that was something that was stressed. I noticed, there were several sort of occasions where there were those sorts of ceremonies that seemed to suggest, right, some of these degrees of similarity. So I think that was one aspect, but of course, there is the other, I wouldn't say hard, but the other sort of more development cooperation-based elements as well. This was especially apparent in Palau, but these are all different tools for foreign policy.
Was there anything specific that stood out that Taiwan was able to accomplish during this trip?
So I think what was notable was the emphasis on capacity building, the emphasis on helping these places develop an ability to monitor the seas, which they have jurisdiction over, because these have been areas where the PRC have put a lot of pressure on these islands, and they are quite capacity constrained. So it was that sort of move was quite marked. Of course, what will be sufficient in that sort of wide, expansive ocean, I guess, remains to be seen.
How is this diplomatic trip being received by the domestic audience?
I haven't seen sort of any real criticism of it, which I suppose suggests that it is seen as pretty positive domestically. Of course, a lot of the attention domestically in Taiwan was drawn by Ma Ying-jeou's arrangement of the visit by these students from the PRC who seem to have Chinese Communist Party links and the sort of protests surrounding that. So in that regard, perhaps Lai's visit didn't have the big positive impact that he might have hoped, but at least it didn't draw a lot of the sort of negativity that might have come about. That negativity seems to have focused around former President Ma Ying-jeou's actions.
Do you believe that this was a substantive trip that set a real precedent for how Taiwan can help its allies moving forward?
I would say that it is very consistent with what Taiwan, since the Tsai administration, has been doing. It's not, I don't see it as a sort of major breakthrough, but that consistency is important. It shows that Taiwan continues to be interested in how its diplomatic partners are doing. It continues to try to put itself forward as a reliable, credible, and very helpful partner.
That was Jia Ian Chong from the National University of Singapore. The foundation that invited a group of Chinese students to Taiwan for cultural exchanges could be banned from bringing such delegations to Taiwan for some time. It's in response to a controversial comment one of the students made about Taiwan's name while on the trip. Cadence Caranta explains the recent breakdown in cross-strait communications.
Former President Ma Ying-jeou's foundation is defending itself after Taiwan's Chinese Affairs Office said it could be banned from bringing Chinese delegations to Taiwan for months or even years. This comes after the foundation invited 40 Chinese students, teachers, and athletes on a trip to Taiwan, which they say was to promote cross-strait communication. But while they were here, one of the students called Taiwan's national baseball team China Taipei, which sparked backlash in Taiwan because it denies China's claims that it's part of the mainland. Taiwan's Mainland Affairs Council said the comment may have violated government rules and accused the foundation of not handling it properly. The whole trip also faced criticism because almost all the students are affiliated with the Chinese Communist Party. But today, the foundation's CEO and several KMT legislators argued that this comment actually illustrates the need for more cross-strait communication, because they said that the student might not have even known that his comment could be hurtful to Taiwanese people, and that if these kinds of exchanges aren't allowed, cross-strait relations could get even worse. But the trip's effectiveness in promoting communication has also been controversial, with some of the students at the universities where the delegation visited telling me it didn't seem like the delegation was even interested in real communication. The Mainland Affairs Council says it will soon convene other government agencies to decide whether to punish the foundation over the China-Taipei comment, which could include a ban on bringing Chinese delegations to Taiwan for anywhere from 6 months to 5 years. Eason Chen and Cadence Quaranta for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's military has been conducting live-fire exercises focusing on using and combining different weapons. But with more weapons from the US on the way, Jaime Ocon looks at whether Taiwan's military has the training it needs to use them effectively.
Taiwanese Army helicopters firing live ammunition at this mountainside in southern Pingtung County. The military here is conducting 2 days of exercises, focusing on defense through combined arms warfare. That means using a combination of different weapons and vehicles from different services to maximize firepower on a single point.
Keeping that ability of the different branches and troops in different parts of the battle space and different equipment to effectively coordinate is really difficult. It's essential for effective modern combat. So, the more practice you can have doing it, the better.
Taiwan is working to increase the frequency and complexity of its various military drills, pushing for more realistic combat training in the face of threats from neighboring China. Taiwan is reforming its training and has purchased over $20 billion worth of weapons from the US, its largest security partner. It's set to receive the first batch of 38 US-made Abrams tanks by the end of December. But some say the military will have a tough time using them in some of Taiwan's dense urban environments.
Those tanks are heavy and slow in terms of maneuver. Moreover, they will face a huge challenge due to Taiwan's terrain. The Taiwanese military will need to figure out how to use them smartly in order to maximize their functions and lower their shortcomings.
Taiwan is expected to receive an influx of U.S. systems after lengthy delays, and there are concerns about how effectively the military can integrate these weapons into its training. Some analysts in the U.S. say Taiwan should take advantage of the time between weapons deliveries to learn how to master these systems.
The fact that they're also coming in tranches means that you can have that time in between the tranches to learn how to get those theories of operations and sort of tactical level understanding of the equipment. It's really in the hands of MND and the services in Taiwan to, figure out the best way to use these. And there will be growing pain.
As Taiwan continues to adapt its military, new hardware should provide a much-needed boost to the country's defense. But without proper training and exercises, even the best weapons may prove ineffective. Andy Shui and Jaime Ocon for TaiwanPlus.
Prosecutors are investigating the death of a well-known cryptocurrency analyst after she and her boyfriend were involved in a car crash. Chen Meihui had been questioned by prosecutors in Taichung over information leaks. She was released without bail and later died when the car she was traveling in crashed near Hsinchu. Chen was known for assisting authorities on high-profile cryptocurrency and money laundering cases. Her death has raised public suspicion, prompting prosecutors to launch an investigation. Government subsidies for rooftop solar panels on small properties are on the way. The nearly $126 million program is promising around $90 per kilowatt generated, with a maximum of around $9,000 per project. The subsidies agreed by the Cabinet will apply to private properties with roofs smaller than 1,000 square meters. The government is also making rooftop solar panels mandatory for new buildings and renovations with roofs bigger than 1,000 square meters. Taiwan's roof solar panel project is not the only way the country is pursuing green energy. Small-scale geothermal and hydropower projects are also helping Taiwan move towards its goal for carbon neutrality by 2050. John Van Trieste reports.
This natural whirlpool plays a tiny but important role in Taiwan's quest for green energy. Here, at a spot where the Annong Stream in Yilan County suddenly drops, technicians have built a mini hydroelectric plant capable of meeting the yearly power needs of 170 households. It requires no staff. The whole system is controlled remotely by computer. And while dry periods here in the northeast of the country mean it can't run year-round, its creators say it's an eco-friendly way of making some extra power for the grid.
可以做到跟生态跟环境融合在一起的，它是可以让鱼虾通过，然后可以用很小的面积就盖出一座发电量很高的电厂。
Taiwan aims to achieve carbon neutrality by 2050, but political disagreements over the role of nuclear power make this goal challenging. Projects like this, while small, are at least helping make progress towards this goal. This isn't the only green energy opportunity this part of the country offers. Not far away is a geothermal plant built jointly by the national power and oil companies and opened just over a year ago. This plant can meet the annual needs of 1,200 households, and it has the advantage of running 24/7.
它不受天候的影响，那像我们的风机就会有风没风，它就会因风而发电。那以地热来讲，只要我们的热源够，它是可以24小时做运转。
Geothermal has its enthusiastic supporters in Taiwan, given the country's position along the Pacific Rim of Fire. But its exact potential is uncertain, and exploration to find out is costly and therefore risky.
要花费很多的成本进去，可是你能够取得的电力不够大，那所以就会造成它整体的发电成本会上升。
But the government hopes that by bearing at least some of the cost, any potential out there won't go to waste.
没有真正的去钻井、去探勘，我们就不知道它的潜能有多少。那这也造成过去地热开发的风险在国内是比较高，就是在探勘方面，政府会给予补助，最高是可以到达1亿元的补助。
Though not all of Taiwan's green energy projects are large, officials hope that every bit will count on the way to an emissions-free future. Devin Tsai and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Coming up after the break, an online influencer elevates the body positivity movement in China with a new clothing brand.
We bring you stories from Taiwan.
Every day of the week.
Our reporters travel the nation.
Exploring the issues that matter to you.
News from here in Taiwan and around the world.
What's up, Taiwan? On TaiwanPlus. For more stories from Taiwan and around the world, download the TaiwanPlus app.
Welcome back. You're watching Taiwan Plus News. The leader of South Korea's ruling party says that President Yoon Yeol should be suspended from office after reports that Yoon ordered the arrest of prominent politicians. As Chris Gorin reports, it's part of the continuing political crisis surrounding Yoon's declaration of martial law on Tuesday.
South Korean President Yoon Yeol's support is eroding, even within his own People's Power Party. The head of the party says they'd learned that Yoon ordered the arrest of prominent politicians during his short-lived declaration of martial law.
새로이 드러나고 있는 사실 등을 감안할 때 대한민국과 국민을 지키기 위해서 윤석열 대통령의 조속한 직무 집행 정지가 필요하다고 판단합니다.
This stunning turn from Yoon's allies is the latest in the ongoing fallout from his declaration of martial law on December 3rd, which was overturned mere hours later by legislators. Protests calling for Yoon's removal continued overnight. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin canceled a planned visit to the country, citing the declaration of martial law. By morning, the streets of the country's capital were calm, but residents say something's changed.
예전에 제가 그 계엄령 선포는 좀 불가능한 일이다라고 생각했던 게 이제 더 이상 이게 이거는 현실성이 좀 있는 일일 수도 있겠다라고 생각이 좀 많이 변한 것 같아요.
Such concerns seemed to be warranted. Later that day, a civil group said they had evidence that a second martial law declaration was coming.
복수의 육군부대 탄핵 표결 다음 날까지 지휘관 비상 소집 대기를 지시한 것으로 확인되고 있습니다.
But the country's defense ministry pushed back hard, saying they would not obey such an order.
오늘 오전 일각에서 제기된 2차 계엄 정황 주장은 전혀 사실이 아닙니다. 만약 계엄 발령에 관한 요구가 있더라도 국방부와 합동참모본부는 이를 절대 수용하지 않을 것입니다.
President Yoon has not been seen in public since his Wednesday morning announcement revoking martial law. Civilian and military prosecutors are conducting investigations into Yoon and his former defense minister. With his own party turning against him and an impeachment vote expected as soon as this weekend, President Yoon's political fate is hanging in the balance. Alex Chen and Chris Gorin for TaiwanPlus.
US President-elect Donald Trump has tapped former Georgia Republican Senator David Perdue to be the country's ambassador to China. Perdue formerly lived in Hong Kong during his decades-long career as a businessman. He will oversee handling one of the most important and tense relationships in US diplomacy. China and the US have long-standing disagreements over trade and Taiwan. Paraguay has expelled a Chinese envoy for urging lawmakers to break off ties with Taiwan. Paraguay's foreign ministry says it cancelled the visa of visiting envoy Xu Wei on the grounds that he interfered in internal affairs. He was given 24 hours to leave the country. Xu was part of a delegation for an annual UNESCO meeting, but he skipped that to meet lawmakers. He called on them to ditch Taiwan and bolster ties with China instead. Paraguay is one of just 12 countries that recognize Taiwan. Taiwan President Lai says it has promised to stay that way.
在就职演说当中，有相当大的篇幅，当着他这些朋友，强调巴拉圭在他领导之下，坚守民主，不会改变，会坚定的跟台湾邦谊永固，这个立场不会改变。
President Lai made the comments in Palau while on a tour of Taiwan's Pacific allies. Body positivity movements are growing in popularity on Chinese social media, but so are weight loss challenges. Sonia Schlesinger explores how a Guangzhou influencer is running an online plus-size clothing brand while navigating this tricky terrain.
China's biggest cities are teeming with luxury malls and high fashion brands. But in Guangzhou, there's a clothing brand that's trying something new. 35-year-old influencer Amanda Yao wants to fill what she says is a gap in fashion markets. High-quality clothes for plus-sized people. So she opened an online store, Yeol Design, selling bright, carefully crafted pieces to help customers showcase their unique style.
我希望我的衣服穿在我的客户身上，能让我的客户展现出他内心的感觉，就是看到他的自己，而不是单单的只是显瘦一件很没有灵魂的衣服。
Yao's mission stems from her own experience trying and failing to find clothes that she liked. She says international luxury brands sell plenty of high-fashion clothing for people in smaller sizes. But for plus-size customers, those clothes are not so easy to come by.
回国之后，我就特别的难买衣服，那个时候确实是非常的难。然后我就是经常买一些就是看起来图片很漂亮，然后到我手里非常不好看的衣服，我就很生气。就他们觉得好像这部分的人他不需要时尚，他不需要穿很好看的衣服。
To promote her store, Yao posts pictures of her own outfits on Xiaohongshu, a Chinese app that is similar to Instagram. In her posts, she calls on people to hashtag reject body anxiety, a phrase that is tagged in hundreds of thousands of posts on Xiaohongshu. Her efforts are part of a body acceptance movement that has become popular in China as influencers post pictures of themselves enjoying food and rejecting the pressure to diet.
The reason why we might be seeing more resistance or rebellion against beauty standards as they currently stand, I think firstly because, I think at least some people will have attempted a diet or tried to shrink their bodies to no avail in terms of addressing those deeper emotional and psychological needs.
Yeol faces headwinds too, in an online landscape that still leans heavily on exacting beauty standards. Some viewers leave cruel comments on her posts. Meanwhile, eating disorders are on the rise in China, according to data from the Shanghai Mental Health Center.
因为大家就说了自己的那个故事，从小是怎么样被影响到的，然后就不能把这个胳膊露出来，让怎么就是在他的思想里觉得我这个有肉的地方一定要藏起来，然后还有一些笔记可能就是我穿了一条很舒服的贴身的裙子，然后我有一个小肚子。
But Yeol is determined to break the mold. As new TikTok challenges have women squeezing into children's clothes, she hopes that her brand will be the one to set the next big trend, one where fashion gives everyone the chance to show off their truest selves. Dolphin Chen and Sonia Schlesinger for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, come with us to Lyon, France for the Festival of Lights. This year marks its 25th anniversary. I'm Laurel Stewart. Take care and see you next time.